来呢，我们要进行的是第3个场次的讨论，主题是 ICANN 的多方利害关系人模式。Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back, and we will now proceed to session 3 on ICANN's multi-stakeholder model. 这个场次呢，我们邀请来自 ICANN 的各个利害关系人的群体代表来分享他们的参与经验，包含了是什么样的契机来引起他们参与的兴趣，还有多方利害关系人模式可以如何更有效的运作，还有包含像是如何加入并且成为 ICANN 社群的一员。In this session, we invite representatives from various ICANN stakeholder groups to share their participation experiences. For example, what sparked their interest in getting involved and how the multi-stakeholder model can function more effectively, as well as how others can join and become part of the ICANN community. 这个场次的主持人呢是 ICANN GNSO 的陈曼如理事。The moderator for the session is Ms. Manju Chen, ICANN GNSO Councillor. 接下来呢，就把时间交给我们的主持人陈曼如理事，有请。
谢谢您。
Thank you. Now I would like to begin with introducing our panelists. And I will invite each and every one of them to introduce what they have been doing, which community groups they belong to under the framework of ICANN. So I would like to begin with Mr. Anthony Lee, Director of TWNIC. And this is probably the 5th time you are seeing our next colleague, and Edmon Chung, CEO of DotAsia. You can call him Zhong Hong'an in Chinese. And then Mr. Jing Chiao. He is head of APAC. He's head of APAC, who is API. And then Nicole. He's chairperson of the Digital Trust Association in Taiwan, as well as a member of the ICANN SOAC. And Ms. Deng Gengying, he's a partner at Lee & Lee. And finally, Ji Tingyu, board member of ISOC Taipei chapter. So this is the final segment of our meeting today. We would like to begin with our final panelist. Well, I would like to thank TWNIC for giving me this opportunity. Well, I'm from ISOC Taipei, and we are a group composed of internet enthusiasts. So we take part at a large community under ICANN. Especially when we talk about multi-stakeholder model, we believe the at-large internet users need to be heard. That's why we set up a large organization. We have obviously various groups throughout the world. We have different roles, and ISOC actually have set up 2 ALO organizations. We, for the most part, are participating at AP RALO activities. For me, I joined AP RALO in 2009. Yeah, but don't make a mistake. It was actually Liu Jiulang, and he was the representative of Taiwan. I was only there as assistant. And so beginning from 2009, I began to take part in at-large community activities by accompanying President Liu Jiulang. As mentioned just now, basically, we hope that we will be able to serve as a platform where internet users' voice can be heard, so that our opinions could also be incorporated into ICANN decisions. If you are interested in participating in AP RALO, you can submit your application online, and within 60 days, you will be hearing back with an answer of either yes or no. Last July, we actually come up with a mechanism. As an individual member, you will be enjoying voting right as well. So whether you are a member of student organization, if you represent a certain group and you want to participate in discussions that are taking online, you are definitely welcome to join us at APAC-TWNIC. Thank you. Now, Ms. Zhang, Attorney Zhang, in addition to a practicing lawyer, I'm also a member of TWIGF. I'm a member of Government Advisory Committee, so we serve as an advisory body for ICANN. So within ICANN, we don't enjoy any decision-making right, but we can definitely make our recommendations. Basically, it's only representatives of government that can make interventions in ICANN meetings. So they basically will start with their national interest or their sovereignty. When these government representatives make intervention in ICANN meetings, so each country typically will have their wish list, and the items on the wish list will be discussed at ICANN meetings. In addition, people who are more sophisticated when it comes to the procedures of ICANN will then make explanation to all participants. Because sometimes some people will try to monopolize the microphone. They complain about how many people were victims of scam. And when that happens, there will be other people who will try to console them. And this is not topic that will be topic at ICANN meetings, because we need to be focusing on domain name and infrastructure issues. So we typically run into that kind of situation quite a lot, because we need to really set the boundaries. What is covered by ICANN and what is not. My name is Nicole, and in this session, I'm wearing the hat of a member of ICANN SOAC. And this is actually my 4th year running, serving at SOAC. Previous 2 years, I was the co-vice chair, but now I'm a member of SOAC. So, what is SO? There are 3 supporting organizations according to the bylaws of ICANN. One of them is ASO, Address Supporting Organization. Now, what is AC? AC is Advisory Council. So, ASO is actually a group within the ICANN framework. We play a very different and unique role, and actually we wear a different hat simultaneously, because within ICANN communities we have different RIR. And so at every RIR region, each year 3 people will be elected. 2 of them are elected by community. The remaining one is actually nominated by the RIR board. So through election and appointment, we have 3 people representing each region, and we have a total of 5 regions, so a total of 15 members. Every time when we attend RIR meeting, then we can elect number resource advisory at the meeting. So these 15 members serve as SOAC within the ICANN framework. So for RIR, we are NRONC, and for ICANN, we are SOAC. So within the ICANN structure, our function, the function that we serve, is actually We are responsible for electing number 9 and number 10 seats to sit on ICANN board. In other words, 2 seats at ICANN board have been elected by SO. We also have NUMCOM. Ching Chiao is a representative from NUMCOM, but actually we will also nominate a NUMCOM member, and right now that position is filled by Louis Lee. So whether we look at ICANN board or different ICANN communities, we do have a structure which has proven to be very inclusive. Whether we talk about election or debate, this is a bottom-up approach so that we can fill all the seats at different groups and different committees throughout ICANN. And over the years, ICANN ASO is also responsible for ICE2. If we do have time, we can probably have some discussion, but if time does not permit today, then tomorrow afternoon we will have a session for discussing TWNIC policies, and I will then make a presentation on ISE2 in that session together with Luo Jiarong. Before the establishment of ICANN, there are 3 RIR already, and with the establishment of ICANN, 2 more RIR were added. So over the past 2 plus decades, we realized that internet governance has become more and more important. So a lot of governance procedures and documentation need to be further enhanced in order to keep up with the advancement of time, and also as a result of operations throughout the years, many problems have emerged. Therefore, we believe internet governance needs to be further strengthened. Therefore, we realized that the best mechanism would be referencing the ICP2 document. So in addition to our responsibility for electing member to the ICANN board, we are also given the task of reviewing ICE2. So almost on a weekly basis, we will have meetings in the evening, and we also take part in face-to-face meetings organized by ICANN. Therefore, I think with the establishment of ICANN from the very beginning, this is a very important milestone, and we have published some consultation documents. We hope that you can review those documents online and then provide us with your feedback. Now we'd like to go to Jing Chiao.
太多简写了，多解释一下。
So Jing is actually a representative of the business constituents. Now we would like for him to provide us with more information about his group. Business constituents is the group that I belong to right now. Previously, I was working extensively with Edmon Chung, and I'm now a member of ICANN Business Constituency. As the name suggests, the majority of our members are business members. Basically, domain name users that are companies, including both large and small companies. For example, Google, Meta are examples of large companies. And for small companies, we are talking about small and medium-sized enterprises. Some of them are actually focusing on domain name investment. They are instrumental in promoting the registration of domain names. So I was designated as a representative at ICANN nomination committee. And we need to elect 3 board members as well as 1 PTI member, because there is IANA functionality. This is handled by a subsidiary set up by ICANN. We also elect GNSO as well as executive council members. And so far, there's nothing else that I can disclose. So what we can share is that, we receive no compensation, but we have to attend a lot of meetings, very time-consuming. Non-com is actually a very interesting group. ALSC holds the most power. So basically, every community under ICANN can send a representative to non-com. And BC is very unique because we have large and small BC. So there's 1 seat for a large company and 1 seat for small companies. And I was considered to be a representative of large companies, but although I think I'm from a small company. Anyways, basically, I'm a BCR member. At the same time, we also do something related to IANA. I'm actually a representative of CSG because we have a review team, IANA Function Review Team, IFR2. So I'm representing CSG. And what we do is actually quite boring. IANA, ICANN, PTR contracts need to be reviewed to see whether there is any update that need to be carried out, especially those that will impact the operation of IANA. Then that will be handled by our community. In terms of ICANN GTOT, although I had some involvement, but I'm no longer an operator in the industry, but we continue to provide support. But so far, I believe my contribution to that effort is actually much less than before. Thank you.
Thank you. Probably to explain what CSG is Consumer Cellular Group. It represents a lot of commercial interests of businesses or intellectual property or ISPs. These are members of the CSG group. Now, going back to our panelists making his 5th appearance today, Edmon. He is actually a member of the contracting parties. What role does he play and which group does he belong to? Thank you. Again, it's my great pleasure to come up multiple times. I hope my Mandarin is comprehensible to all of you. Now, of course, I'm in charge of this DotAsia as a contracted party house. That is, we signed a contract with ICANN as a registry. But let me go back to the very beginning. Actually, with Mr. Chiao, prior to DotAsia, we were in the CTOD business. So the first issue I discussed after joining ICANN is IDN for Chinese. At that time, mostly the participants were CCTOD constituents. And now there were CNSO being splitted or being derived. So as a contracted party, we were one of the first member of the IDN-related committee. We represented one of the registrar constituents. So that's a different role that we had to assume as a registry. So we managed IDN in the very beginning, and later on, I was also involved I hadn't joined non-com, but at that time, ICANN wants to espouse this voting system with each member having equal voting right, which failed miserably. So there was this non-com at large being birthed. So one thing important about non-com is to elect half of the seats of ICANN being elected from non-com. But I wasn't involved in non-com, but in the establishment of the at-large community. Another hat I wore at that time is to be a member of ISOC Hong Kong Internet Society. I'm also involved in the society. So during my time, my involvement in at-large, I was also a member of the ISOC Hong Kong. But in other working groups, I actually joined them in my capacity as CEO of DotAsia. So that's a little bit of history on my part. Now, after working at DotAsia, I started to focus on registries. I participate in various organizations as a registry representative. I think some of you, yes, you mentioned about contracted parties, Party A and Party A. Of course, we signed a contract with ICANN. There's one special clause. If there's a new policy being drafted by the ICANN commodity, then within 90 days, it needs to be implemented. So that's something that you don't see in regular commercial contracts. So for contracted parties, we have to be very active in our participation to ensure that the policies will not exert undue influence on our work. So that's something very special about the ICANN community. Thank you, Edmon. He mentioned that he was not involved in non-com, but he probably forgets that he was elected by non-com as a member of the ICANN board. So now moving on to the next one. Thank you, Moderator Manju. I'm very happy to share with you my previous experience in different SOs of ICANN. As you know, the TWNIC is the organizer of today's forum. And also, you probably know that we are the manager of the Taiwan country-level domain. So according to ISO standards, each country will be delegated a country code. And so TWNIC is the manager of .tw. So within the ICANN community, TWNIC, we participate in the CC and SO. Now, of course, I have to go back to the very beginning. ICANN did not have a CC and SO. It was called CCTLD. And after multiple organizational restructuring, and back in 2003, I believe many of you know this better than I do. That is, there were some organizational restructuring taking place. So in the RFC 1991, there was the original delegation of CCTLD and GTLD. Now, looking at today's agenda, you see that a lot of discussion is centered around new GTLD. For example, some of you are more well-known .com, some of the legacy ones, all the way to emerging new GTLD, .xyz, and so forth. These domain names, after the first round, actually have provided more options to users. So under the current competition landscape, this kind of country code-based domains need to actually find a new value. All these are being discussed and deliberated under CCNSO. But actually, with the multi-stakeholder mechanism run by ICANN, we see that in CCNSO, we see a lot of changes or improvements over the years. So over the years, we discussed various issues, including IDN. For the CCTLD IDN fast track, we also discussed extensively on Chinese character-based domain name, and Edmon has been with us along the journey since the inception of the Joint Negotiation Committee. That's what we've been doing as a community. We look into different variants. We had a variant table. And we want to go through this policy development procedure to actually come up with non-Latin domain names. We want to have our own language in our domain names. So fast track to this year, we now have the CCTPP. So CCNSO and GNSO are very different in that each country may have its own mechanism of management. So there are three types of inter-organization relationship under ICANN. The first one is based on exchange. The second one is to share a governance framework. The third one is through a sponsorship agreement. So these three kinds of relationship or foundation are the pillars supporting the technical operation of the internet. For example, .jp, .sg can all operate under the same technical standard in alignment with ICANN standards. So a lot of discussions seem irrelevant to CCTLD, right? A lot of you talked about GTLD throughout the day. And Edmon also alluded to this. There's a direct contract between ICANN and registries. It's a compliance issue. So ICANN resorts to contract to enforce certain actions on registries or registrars. That's very different from how CCTLD is being deliberated upon. So hope that through my explanation, you understand this mechanism better. So TWNIC, as a manager of the country-level domain, we also participate in ICANN actively, want to protect users' rights, and also within the ICANN community, we also want to contribute to the policy development process and play a role in relevant processes, including the relationship with IANA. That's the way we participate in the community. Thank you. Thank you, Director Lee. Yes, I also would like to briefly introduce myself. The way I participate in ICANN is that I represent non-commercial cellular group. So I participate in my personal capacity to participate in this MPO stakeholder group. People often ask me, well, you are participating individually, you can also participate in at large, and you are non-commercial, and at large also is non-commercial in nature, represent the general public. What's the difference between the two? The most prominent one being that the non-commercial cellular group is relating to NCSG. We are a part of GNSO, and as Nicole explained, under ICANN, there's different so-called organizations, or ACs, advisory committees. For SOs, they can enact policies or propose policies for a bottom-up and multi-stakeholder and consensus-based approach. As for ALAC, GAC, or at large, they are AC or advisory committees in nature. They can only comment on the policy development procedure. They can file or propose recommendations and to the board. So that's basically the difference between NCSG and non-com. Now, after this first round of discussion or introduction, let's deep dive into our topic of the day. That is, how can ICANN continues to improve, or how ICANN can make it great again. Nicole just mentioned that recently ASO, not yet. It has been making a lot of improvements because a lot of things are already outdated. We need to stay relevant to ensure that policies enacted many, many years ago are up to date. As Mr. Chiao mentioned, they participated in the ICANN function review team. It's something being done regularly at ICANN. ICANN likes to review things to see whether what we did 5 years ago is still valid. Is it up to date? Currently, there is a huge project that is a continuous improvement program within ICANN. Last year, all communities involved actually formed a community team. So it enacted some principles regarding how ICANN can continue to do a better job. This year, more details and criteria will be introduced. So for all the SOs and ACs, we will go back to review whether we are constantly improving ourselves. If not, how can we go about it? Of course, ICANN conducts a lot of regular review. For example, this is AT-RT, Accountability Transparency Review. It wants to ensure that ICANN, as a governance structure of multi-stakeholder mechanism, can ensure its accountability and transparency. And such regular review should be conducted once every 4 years. And as for accountability review, it's something being done, one of the 4 specific reviews mandated by the ICANN. But beyond those reviews, different SOs and AC also need to conduct their own reviews. There are so many reviews to be done. So in 2020, there was a review team suggesting that, well, let's stop doing this. We do a lot of reviews, spend so much money and time in review, and you say you are lacking budget. So let's put a stop to this. They have this kind of overall holistic review, so we don't have to do our own review today, tomorrow, because we actually do not get paid for what we do. And you see that many of our speakers appear again and again throughout the day. That means we are really short of manpower. Some of you appear for the 4th time. We are really lacking human resources. So we really think a holistic review is the right way to go so that we don't waste time and resources on areas where we don't get paid.
大家刚刚有分享说，以前我是这个，后来。
Well, we heard that originally I was with a contract party, but now I'm at a different group. Well, because a lot of people, they change jobs, right? So you're probably a lawyer, and you have been retained by some people from the industry, and you have to speak on his behalf. So when we want to participate in the decision-making process, when we want to provide any input, you need to be very clear which stakeholder you are representing and who pay you to put in some recommendations on their behalf. And recently, there's a very hot topic, and that is you need to clarify your statement of interest. In other words, you need to disclose who pay you to speak on on their behalf. So these are all part of our continuous improvement project at ICANN. So obviously at the different groups, they would focus on different elements of this continuous improvement project. So now I would like to see whether or not you have anything to say about the continuous improvement project, especially as it pertains to your group. Should I call you by name or you will volunteer your intervention? Well, this is Luke, representing ISOC Taipei. Because we represent the at-large community, therefore, we probably have the minimum work burden as compared with our colleagues here. Recently, indeed, ICANN staff began to send letters to our members. We are asked to fill out the forms. The last time they did this was probably 10 years ago. They wanted us to fill out information about our contact, the way to get in touch with us. In addition, to be quite frank, I believe there's another area where there's still room for improvement, and that is we probably need to find a way with which to increase the attendance rate. For example, we have 69 ALS and 48 INs, but normally only 38 of them, or 38 people would participate in our monthly meeting, and only 8 out of the 38 will be actually be responsible for carrying out the actual work. So in addition to monthly meetings, probably my suggestion would be whether or not it is possible. Obviously, this has to do with whether we have a sufficient budget. Probably, in addition to physical meeting every 4 years, probably we can organize more physical events so that previously ISAC did the same thing. And that is, if we can have more physical meetings and events, they can help enhance the cohesion among all members so that we can increase the attendance for our meeting. Obviously, every time when we want to put something to a vote, we need to reach the quorum. And however, during in the intervening time, which is probably 6 months, we need to have some mechanism which can serve as an incentive to encourage our members to take part in our meetings, especially if we do organize physical events. Obviously, ICANN is in no position of providing the required budget, because ICANN had been saying this organization is actually quite poor. But we believe resources can be found in various countries. For example, back in 2004, when I began to participate in online activities from TWNIC project to APNG, and so I received funding support from your organizations represented by our panelists on stage here. So I believe, number one, we need to enhance the attendance for our online meetings. And although it's quite expensive to organize physical events, but they do serve a purpose. For example, we can work with other international organizations by jointly organizing physical events. For example, I attended the physical event organized by ICANN. That's when I realized Taipei is actually a very good way for making money. So if we can engage in international discussions, I think only if you engage in face-to-face discussions with your interlocutor, that's how you can pass your judgment on this person's characters. So physical meetings do serve a purpose, and we need to find ways with which to increase the frequency of our physical events. I agree. We need to make more opportunities available for young people to participate in our events. I participated in Asia-Pacific Internet Governance Committee meeting. That's when I really began to get more involved. So if an ICANN meeting is held in the region that you live in, if you are a student, you can apply for internship. For example, we will elect 2 members from Taiwan to attend the regional meeting, and if that actually spurs your further interest, then you can take the next step. As a matter of fact, TWNIC has been sparing no efforts in cultivating talent among the younger generation. So they actually have selected some outstanding young people, and TWNIC will provide assistance so that they can participate in international meetings. I realized that Edmon is very eager to speak. So without further ado, I would like to turn over to Edmon. Thank you. I would like to respond or address your initial question, but I do believe cultivate the younger generation is very important. So over the weekend, a number of young people participated in PIGA organized by Manju. When I arrived on site, I really felt very heartened by what I saw, because the fact that you show interest in listening to me speak, that's already very moving and touching. Well, in order to enhance attendance and in order to avoid volunteer burnout, I think that's a very important issue. I've never experienced any burnout myself. In other words, I never get tired, but we need to address the issue of burnout, and ICANN needs to continue to evolve. So we talk about reviews. We need to continuously do this type of review so that we can be more effective in whatever we do, and our approach needs to be reviewed periodically. But for me personally, given any sort of organization, given any sort of structure, if we reach a point where there's no room for improvement, then that's not the kind of situation we want to find ourselves in, because then that's an organization only for people with vested interest. You know, the people who are against the review is because they enjoy a lot of vested interest. So while we still can, we need to carry out reviews and which will inform our reforms. So typically there will be a lot of resistance to our review. That means, again, we have reached a point where we have a huge group of people with vested interest. So if we are not quick enough, if we are not efficient enough, there's no reason for us to stop doing reviews, because without review, we will not be able to agilely evolve our organization for the better. So Xiaojing has raised your hand, but Xiaoliang was also ready, so we will begin with Xiaoliang. Whether Luke or Edmon, they mentioned something that's very important. Well, under the ICANN framework, there is room for large groups. And I was the first one from Taiwan to take part or to become a member of a large group. So that's my beginning with ICANN. I realized ICANN is all about perfecting internet governance, and also ICANN wanted to become more inclusive by allowing more people to participate. So whether we talk about ICANN or IGF, these are all organizations which are dedicated to making sure we have a functioning internet for the entire world. And how can we make sure different stakeholders will have a seat at the negotiating table? I think that's very important. In recent years, I often talk about how we can enhance participation so that more stakeholders will be able to actively participate in the governance of the global internet environment. So we should look beyond our own organization and constituency. We need to encourage more individuals to take part, especially we do reviews, as mentioned already, or if we are engaging in the effort to pursue continuous improvement. We are probably at 90 now, but we want to improve to 91. Well, that's where continuous improvement come into the picture, and this is not just limited to ICANN. I think this should be shared by all internet users around the globe. So that's my first point. And secondly, how can we make sure more people will be able to get involved, especially for young people? Young people who are passionate about the internet, and these outstanding young people, they have their ideals, they have their principles, which they want to turn into reality. So again, we believe that a lot of youngster groups, we need to make it possible for them to take part. We are working with 5 universities. We provide training courses with regard to domain names, and we also make it possible for young students to participate in international meetings. And we will continue to do the same this year so that more young people from Taiwan will become actively involved in international activities, be it policy, be it application, anything that has to do with the internet. Especially the technical communities and ICANN need to play a more active role so that we can make it possible for all stakeholders to get involved. In other words, we shouldn't just look within our organization. We really need to expand our efforts to cover the entire global environment. So that's my 2 cents to our discussion here. Thank you. Now I would like to turn over to Chiao.
我可能忘记我要讲什么。
Sorry, I seem to have forgotten what I wanted to say. Oh, burnout. So now I want to address the issue of CIP, Continuous Improvement Program. So this is actually a very important program, CIP. So what's the purpose and what is the structure of our CIP, and what is the current status with the operation of our CIP? I took a quick look at the mailing list. So at PC, we are in full support of the CIP in its current embodiment because there are a number of principles we are in full agreement with. The only thing we would like to probably have some pushback is that if we want to strengthen our CIP, we believe the power dynamics need to be reviewed, and probably some amendment can be done because since we want to do reviews, right? So from the mailing list, what I can see is that there are some similar discussions there. So we probably need to do more reviews in order to identify more approaches. CIP does not just involve GNSO, but GNSO is definitely a part of the effort.
就是没有跟
But for those who are not contrasted with ICANN, it's very difficult for them to have an elected member at the board because part of us are non-commercial, part of us are commercial. We need to have a consensus to elect a board member who can represent the interest of the two worlds. It's a very, very difficult process. So that's why Mr. Chiao said that, well, we probably don't hold enough seats. We should have 2 more. Now, Nicole. Actually, I forgot what the question was about. But again, of course, we are all members of this community, so you are all well-versed in our terminology, but you are just a passersby. You probably think we are talking aliens' languages. It's incomprehensible to outsiders. So probably I'm one of the older panelists here, but I do not represent registry, nor do I represent registrar. I'm not engaging in any domain name business, but why am I here? Well, partly because I was a regulator in the government, and secondly, out of our businesses or government policies are all doing the activities online. So we need to go back to think about the nature of WWW. How was it founded? For so many years, we've seen a lot of models built up by the tech communities. How does that contribute to the world as it is today? So that's the reason why I'm still willing to spend much of my time to be active in the community, because I know very clear that for everything we discuss throughout the day, we all need to go back to reflect upon the nature of WWW relationship between registrar and the multi-stakeholder model. Without such an understanding, all of our efforts will go down the drain. So we need to encourage more people to go back to the origin. But in the past few years, that's something easier said than done. But I think the time has come, because a lot of technologies are built in the internet. If you don't go back to reflect on the basic mechanisms of the internet or ICANN, it's very difficult to address different challenges at their core. It's impossible for us to achieve everything through collaboration. For example, we just learned how Yumin's community reach out to non-naming communities, so telco names, to work together, especially in the age of AI. So we have to know very clearly that the time is ripe. Also considering the special circumstances of Taiwan. So as a Taiwanese, I think I need to play a bigger role in the ICANN community. Because, of course, the WISES at the UN level is actually looking to conduct the +10 or +20 iteration. So this kind of multi-stakeholder model is more favorable to Taiwan. And I also see many of our young people, they are specialized in Web3 or blockchain technologies, and they are starting to see that, oh, there is such a model. Because people think that, oh, we are surrounded by a lot of digital internet natives, but we often forget that for all the things that we enjoy, they are backed up by what the technical community has been doing along the way. So individuals and governments and businesses are actually paying attention to this area. For example, the relationship between GTLD and business goodwill. I think the time is indeed ripe for the multi-stakeholder model to reach out to non-community members. Of course, internally at ICANN, we also have to think about how we can resort to a better policy review mechanism or the launch of new policies. Of course, challenges abound, but the time is really ripe for us to forge ahead. So whether it's ICANN or regional level, APAC-TWNIC, DotAsia, we supported a lot of name sphere activities. As long as we still espouse our passion, we can always find a way to play our role and contribute ourselves to our greater cause. I was not trained in a technical background. I cannot really go back in history like you do into 20 years ago, but even as a non-professional in the very beginning, I can still contribute to this community. So we should encourage more people to come on board. Thank you. I think Attorney Chen is ready to speak up. I think that's the first round. So after Attorney Chen finishes her remark, we can actually close the session with each of the panelists saying a few concluding remarks. Yes, we just talked about, actually I'm an attorney, so who do I represent in GAC? Actually, just behind me, I represent MODA, Ministry of Digital Affairs, because Taiwan's representative at GAP, the deputy and the main representative are MODA officials. My job is to help MODA participate in GAC meetings. In addition to MODA, the CIB and also the Taiwan IP Bureau also participate in ICANN meeting. So they participate in both physical and virtual meetings. And I said, GAC meetings are problematic because all the representatives of all the 100 plus countries are not specialists or experts in internet technology. So actually a lot of time a GAC meeting is devoted to educate officials about what internet is or what ICANN is. But it's not the case in Taiwan because many of us are part of the ICANN community, and during GAC meetings, Taiwan delegations are one of the largest among different countries and economies. Taiwan invested a lot of resources to grab a seat at ICANN. For example, we see public officials representing Taiwan at ICANN meeting are really diligent in learning about the mechanism of ICANN. So I think Taiwan is one of the top achievers in this community. Of course, let's work together to keep going. Thank you, Attorney Chen. I think, yeah, Edmon has the great honor of being regarded as a Taiwanese. Yeah, so just a very brief question from the floor, no more than 30 seconds. If not, yes. Yes, we have a quick question here I'm from the Open Culture Foundation. So a quick question for you. We come from the Mozilla community. Starting from 2004, we started to play a part in the building of Taiwan's internet community. But all the members of our community had one question in mind. That is, for the first 10 years in our community, we really didn't heard of anything like TWNIC, ICANN, or internet governance scattering. It's just like suddenly at one night, we were exposed to this whole new world. So how can we let the future generation of community members know more about these existing mechanisms so that they can make their voices heard? So we can avoid DSRPC issues, or let's forget about the Digital Intermediary Act, or these may daunt a lot of students, prevent them from joining the community. We should encourage them from coming on board early on. What are some of the practical approaches? Well, before I give the floor to our panelists, actually, we have one good example. One of our organizations comprised of student participants, so they can go back to tell their friends that, oh, they had really positive experience joining activities. So every year they bring like new bloods into our organization. So the same is true for me. It's like a whole new world after joining this community. I thought, well, I should have invited more people to join our efforts. So any intervention from our panelists? Yeah, there's a more straightforward way to make these mechanisms known to the younger generation in Taiwan. I think it's all about timing. In addition, we can actually include the mentioning of policy in Taiwan's teaching materials on the internet. So when people are actually, for example, learning about introduction to computing or to internet, in addition to ATN, there is actually network policy. That's all. Thank you. Let's take one final question from the organizer. Yes, just very briefly to respond. I was surprised to learn that not many of the younger generation know about our community, but I joined Dadian Data Technology Co only last year. I think all community organizations are closely interlinked, but sometimes we don't talk to each other that much. So I think we should interact with each other so we can do more. That's a good starting point. We don't have to spend that much money to achieve the same result. Of course, we all have our next generations of participants to count on. So with this kind of interaction, I think different younger generations will have the opportunity to mingle with each other. Thank you, CEO. So I think this forum provides a good opportunity for different community members to know more about each other. A lot of SITCOM participants actually participate in our organization. We actually get to see some students who are really good at coding. So that's the session. We are 4 minutes over time. So let's close this session with a big round of applause as we wrap up this closing session of the day. Thank you for your contribution. We wish you a good evening. Thank you.
是我们主持这个场次，谢谢所有与谈讲者，请大家往前站一步，我们要一起合影一张。Now we invite the moderator and the panelists to take a group photo. 好，请看上我们的摄影师。谢谢大家，请留步哦，请留步。我们接下来要请今天所有的讲者、主持人都一起来到台上，要一张大合影。我们请台下的今天所有的讲者、语坛讲者，还有我们执行长，还有我们今天的这个主持人一起来到台上，我们要一张大合照。好，请看上我们的摄影师。谢谢大家 ，Thank you very much， 也谢谢大家的参与。